It is Monday the 10th of December 2018, back in the kitchen, and what I'm doing today is making a couple of fruit liqueurs and also a bean loaf. On the cooker here, this is the after and this one here is the before. That is rhubarb and that is plum, and they have been boiled up, but they have both come out of the freezer. And what I'm trying to do is get this to have a reasonable amount of liquid in it. Same with the plums, in fact the plums even more so. And they will be strained and added to brandy with a bit of sugar. Meanwhile, recently off the cooker, we have some beans that I've boiled up. Most of the beans were actually dried beans that we got out of our pantry, so therefore we bought them, but there are some of our broad beans in there as well, which have just come out of the freezer. Broad beans we actually grew last year. So I'll mash those beans up a bit later and add in a few extra ingredients. Just as an aside, this is a sort of tomato sauce, which we're going to freeze. We made it from a whole lot of tomatoes we got a few weeks ago, and they weren't going to last much longer, so it's some of our so it's tomatoes, but also a bit of our garlic gone in there, and obviously you won't be able to smell it, but I can, and it smells gorgeous. And that tomato sauce will go into the freezer, and then when it comes out to be used, we'll use it in things like pasta dishes or sauces on meats and so on. Time's moved on a bit now, and I've managed to make the bean loaf. So what went into that was the beans, obviously, goes in the name. We've put breadcrumbs, onions, chopped onions. Found an old bottle of homemade Horbury ketchup from 9 years ago. So that went in, along with some wild garlic. Sorry, our own garlic, not wild garlic. But also this. That is olive oil that's made by a friend of a friend, and she grows her own olives on a villa she's got out in Italy. Makes her own olive oil, and we swapped via a friend lemon curd for the olive oil, so now seems a good time to be using it up. But this is now ready to go in the oven, and for good measure we've got a smaller one as well. Bean loaf is for Richard, because he's the one in the household who is the vegetarian. We are reduced to having pork chops from our pig that we got a couple of weeks ago. We've had dinner now, and I can show you the results of the baking of the bean loaf. Worked rather well. It didn't quite hum together as I would have hoped, but it still came out fine. And we've got a smaller one here as well. Now, earlier I was boiling up rhubarb and plums to make a fruit liqueur. Now I've never before made fruit liqueurs by boiling up fruit. It always goes in fresh into the brandy or vodka or gin or whatever we're using. The reason I boiled it up this time was because it had actually been in the freezer. The fruit had been in the freezer, and it was already sort of as it defrosted, the juice came out of it. So just to make sure that it was all, we could maximise the amount of juice out of it, we boiled it up. So I've got in here the rhubarb into brandy, and second bottle of brandy we put the plums in. Now it would normally take about 3 months to make a fruit liqueur, and I'm hoping that these are going to be ready in actually a couple of weeks. And the reason being is because basically all the the fruit has all been sort of mashed up by the boiling process and the freezing and defrosting. So you should be releasing the flavour directly into the brandy. But we'll try these in a couple of weeks, see what they're like.